fundamentals, took a lot of criticism last year. Just curious, how do you approach that with the player in the offseason, if at all, to kind of make sure they're reset mentally going into the new year?
We've been really honest with all of them, and we've have not put a lot of emphasis on last year, but we've told guys that you're going to play based on what you earn, and then you put them in situations in practice where they have to earn it. And Greg's done a really good job. He was a guy that when we got here, a lot of people were critical of. But I will say that he's managed his business well. His off the field stuff's really good. He's really tried. He's worked in the weight room, and so far he's played really well in the first 2 games.
Of the changes you've made to the culture, for lack of a better term, for the whole thing in the program, is preparing one of the changes you had to make with the guys, kind of teaching them how to prepare better and economize their time when preparing?
You go back to where we did not talk a lot about last year. The only thing we've talked a lot about with them about last year is finishing games in the fourth quarter. And other than that, we started with what we felt like was important in the process. So it wasn't that let's change this, let's do this better. It was here's how we're going to win. And you guys need to buy into it, and if you don't want to, that's fine, but you should go do something else. And the guys have really bought into the process. And then it really helps you after 2 games that you've won, that they feel like the process has worked, so they're more vested now in what we've asked them to do because they're understanding it's working. And then I talked to them today about a lot of people will not think they'll play hard again because they haven't won 2 games like this in a while. So can they handle success now? And that's just the next step of being a good team. So Wake Forest is a good team. They're 2-0. They've had very few penalties this year. They've had 1 turnover this year. So are we going to be a disciplined, focused football team on Friday night that we need to be successful? And that's still to be determined.
And a lot of that means being disciplined and focused during the week. Are you seeing what you want to see about how they're handling the success?
Yes, I haven't seen Tuesday's practices being as good as I want them to be, even for either South Carolina or Miami. So we've got to learn that you're still sore on Tuesdays, and that's a physical practice. You're putting new stuff in, but we've got to learn that we've got to start over better each week. And I think this whole thing's a process. We've had 2 games together, so we're still getting to know each other. And when people ask me what to expect Friday night, I expect them to play hard and play well because that's what they've given us. But we're 2 games in, so I haven't seen them in this situation yet.
So you were doing TV at the time of the whole WikiLeaks saga. What was your impression of that, and did you address that at all with Jay and Lonnie, given their connection to it?
I've been doing this 43 years, and I moved through that very quickly. What else?
Mack, short week this week, first true road test. I mean, how have preparations been different? Has it been more challenging having a little bit shorter of a turnaround, and also having to prepare for your first?
Yeah, the biggest thing is that Wake Forest played Friday night, so they had all Saturday to rest and watch us, and start their more normal week on Saturday to get the same number of days. We have the late night game with a lot of energy on Saturday night. And then our Sunday becomes more like Monday because you don't have a Sunday and Monday's off, so we let them have more free time on Sunday. But then you practice hard Monday and Tuesday and then a little bit lighter today. So it just gives them less time to recoup. And that's why normally for a Thursday game you get the week off the week before, because in college they don't want you playing Saturday and the next Thursday. So it's been a short week for us, but the guys have responded really well.
Asked Coach Bateman about Tamon Fox, how important he is to the defensive line and defense. What are your thoughts on his performance so far and what he does to kind of alter protections on the defensive line?
Yeah, first, he's a guy who practices hard every day. When you start talking about did they practice hard, you don't question him. Secondly, he's really talented and smart, and he's very physical, so he's one of our best pass rushers. He's going to make plays every day. And Jay is so smart with our defenses that he tries to move him around and put him in positions especially he and Strobridge, put them in positions where they're working against a lesser player some to give them more advantages. And he's really a good football player.
Coach, I don't know if you heard, but student tickets sold out in under an hour. With junior UNC, that's unheard of for the first 2 years of my Carolina experience. Can you put into words what that means for you, the program, your players, to just have that support?
Yes, I was so excited when I heard that today. I thought the students made a huge difference Saturday night, even from the beginning. They were there so early, they were having fun, they were enjoying, they were having a party long before we started. And then they were very instrumental in the game, and then so much fun for our players after the game, after the win. So I was actually talking to Jeremy about doing a video next week to stir them up and tell them how much I appreciate it, but they've already picked up all the tickets in an hour, so I don't think I need to do that, but I do want to say thank you to the students because they're a vital part of who we are, and they're a vital part of us winning at home on Saturday, and hopefully a lot of them will head up to the game on Friday night too and have some fun up there since it's not very far.
Coach Mack, now that you're talking about students, I remember the dinner and when you spoke to Carolina Fever, and now you have that new partnership with Carolina Fever, like the first 200 get a ticket to the football game. What does that mean for the football team?
When I was at Tulane, we brought in a sports psychologist. And I said, what do you have to do to win? Because Tulane was really struggling at that time. And they said that your team will only be as good as your administration is to them and your fan base is to them. And when our players saw when they saw the bell tower walk and all the people there, they were like little kids at Christmas. I mean, they were so excited to see such a crowd. And then they walk down those steps, there's another huge crowd that greets them. And then when they come on the field, the students are already in their seats. And they were just giddy before the game. And I thought that it really made a difference for us because they know how much people care and want them to be good and want them to get back to where Larry had it 3 or 4 years ago. And that's, I think all that credit goes to the students. Our fans did a good job of coming in early. Our students did a great job of coming in early. And that's a huge difference. So I want them to understand that they are a vital part of the enthusiasm and excitement that's created for our games on Saturday.
What impressed you almost about Javonte, and how was he able to rise to be one of the top feature backs for you all?
Javonte was a valedictorian of his high school, so he's very disciplined. He's very smart, obviously a leader. He's 220 pounds and ran 4.4. He's got really good hands. He's got such powerful legs. He's hard to tackle. And in our offense, you get the ball to him in space a lot. So when you throw those flares and you've got receivers blocking, sometimes those safeties don't want to come up. I remember when we had Ricky Williams, a lot of safeties would slip on the way to tackle Ricky because they thought it was better to slip or pull a hamstring before they got there. And I think I'm seeing some of the same stuff in Javonte. People don't want to tackle him in space.
Linebacker was an area of concern when fall camp started. You're 2 games in now. You get Jonathan Smith back this week. How would you assess that group?
We're deeper at linebacker right now than we've been since we've been here. It's exciting to get John back. He's worked really hard. He was on our scout team for the first 2 weeks and obviously wasn't even here this spring, so he's got a lot of catching up to do. Dominic Ross, I thought he really got hurt. We didn't practice him the week before South Carolina, and then the week of the game, we didn't practice him. So we're sitting there with he got behind, so he can play better than he did the other night. Chaz Surratt has come faster than I think anybody I've ever seen in that transition from quarterback to linebacker, and he's played lights out 2 weeks in a row. And then Jeremiah Gimmel's 2 games into his career. He hadn't played before. And then you've got Eugene Asante and Kadri Jackson that are just learning how to play. And Kadri goes from nickel back to linebacker and vice versa. So we've got to figure out whether he plays long term. But I'm really excited about the possibility of that position getting better. It was our thinnest and weakest position when we started. I thought the defensive line has picked it up and done better. So the linebackers now are the unit that has to keep coming. And with Patrice out, we're also going to have to lean on young corners. So Storm Duck, some of those guys are going to have to step up and start playing, and they're going to have to play like they've been around here for a long time.
Coach, going back to Javonte, are you surprised at all by the way he's led that group, even with somewhat proven guys like Michael Carter and Sonny Williams?
No, it's the strongest unit we have, and all three of those guys have been really good. They've been really positive. Even Antonio hasn't played as much as the other two, and he's maybe the most positive of the group, definitely the most vocal, and maybe the best leader. But all three of those guys are big-time backs, and that's still our strongest unit, and they've protected the ball, which will be critical for Friday night.
Mack, with this game being at Wake, being a non-conference game, it's got a lot of us talking about scheduling, why games are scheduled the way they are. Do you have kind of an opinion on how you would like to see your schedule set up non-conference wise?
What we did at the previous place I was, and I even think here before, because it's been 20-something years, but we had somebody we should beat, we had a mid-major, and then a national game, and then our conference schedule. And that's kind of what we've always been. I haven't really had enough time to sit down with Bubba and Rick Steinbacher and talk about it. I think what Larry wanted was a game with an opponent he thought he could win. I looked at Mercer the other day; they're already 2-0, so I shouldn't even check them out because they're playing well. But I think Larry wanted that type, the Western Carolina game before NC State, and we had normally gotten that type game in the opener. So that's something that Bubba and I and Rick will talk about. But the scheduling is usually out there at least 5 years, sometimes 10. So it's hard to make a lot of changes.
When Daz finally got contact, did you notice a difference?
Yes. Yeah, he's catching the ball much better now than he did last year. And obviously, if he hadn't stumbled, I think he scores on the first one he catches, the deep ball. And the catch in the end zone, I thought it was so cool that he didn't know where his feet were. So he got kind of in a crunch position and made sure he got the knees down, the feet down, he wanted to touch with everything before he was out of bounds, but what a great catch to win the game.
Coach, how much do you expect to use Jonathan Smith among those the two inside linebacker positions, given he hasn't played much here in the spring?
We're going to play him. It's going to be probably 88 degrees when the game starts, and heat index of in the 90s, 95, 97, something like that on that turf. And so we're going to need to play a lot of guys, and we're trying to do a better job with our special teams. So John will be on a lot of special teams, but he'll play during the game.
And how has Brian Anderson kind of adapted to that starting spot? I know he's played a lot already. Is there any challenges you've seen, or anything he's doing really well?
No, Brian's a good player. We lose leadership with Nick. We lose a lot of confidence with Nick. The fact that he's seen everything in his 5 years here. He could play guard or center. So it really hurts us, but Brian's going to have to step up and take that role now, and also Ty Murray's got to step up. Ty missed a week or so in the preseason with an injury and set him back, but now Ty's got to be ready to play, and he's one snap away from playing with Brian. So what we've got to do is make sure now who the third guy would be. And Avery Jones has been hurt because he had his knee hurt in the spring. So we got him coming back, and he's playing center. But we still would be in a bind Friday night if we have to go to a third center.
What has Jeremiah done that's allowed him to get off to this start that he's had? Jeremiah's
got great instincts at linebacker, and he's real fast. So he's a guy that needs to get stronger, needs to get bigger, because we're using him a lot to blitz and try to penetrate and get some tackles for loss. But he's a guy that all he needs is to get bigger. He's real smart, plays real hard, so I've been really pleased with him.
Coach, did you do anything to prepare for your first away game? I remember Fedora used to play crowd noise in practice. Do you have any of those methods?
But South Carolina was like an away game because half the crowd was theirs and half was ours. But we play crowd noise every day, especially anytime we're kicking a field goal. And we always count down like it's the end of the game, and it's the game-winning field goal. And then we all cheer and celebrate when we make it, like the good guys won. But nowadays you're playing music all the time, and crowd noise isn't really an issue on the road anymore because your snap counts are silent. You're going on claps and movement. All your plays are signaled in from the boundary, and even the lineman, everybody else is seeing the play that's called So it's really, really changed what happens within the Wake game. It doesn't change much preparation.
There's been some talk about the discrepancy at the cornerback position and the wideout position. Have you ever started two undersized cornerbacks, and if so, when?
Oh gosh, 43 years, that's a long time to go back and figure out. I'm sure I have. One of them was named Dre Bly, and he should have won the Thorpe, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So it's not the Coach Royal, the legendary coach at Texas, used to say it's what he said, it's not the size of the dog, it's the fight in the dog, or something like that. And so I think that small guys like Trey Morrison's not very big, but he covered the Miami guys really well on Saturday night, and we have our hands full with 6'3" and 6'5" this weekend. I mean, those guys they're tall, they're fast, they're athletic, they're both basketball players. So that's a real issue for us, and it's hard to stop their run. Carney's a really good back, and he's physical, and he takes his time, and he's really patient, and they can run the ball well up inside. Then you've got their quarterback that's 6'4", 230, and he can run, so he's like a running back out of the backfield. And then you spread the big tall guys out, and you put a tall guy on a short guy and try to throw it. So that's why Wake Forest is 2-0.
Coach, just talking to the guys, it seems like everybody has like this underdog mentality. Are you telling them something to kind of instill that in them, or?
When you have struggled like they have the last 2 years, and people have been so critical of them, I think every day is a chip on your shoulder mentality, because I told them, you were told you couldn't beat South Carolina, and you did. You were told you couldn't beat Miami, and you did. And now you're an underdog to Wake Forest. Everybody's saying you're not going to play hard, you're not going to be good. So that's the challenge. I said that the one thing we don't do is we don't duck with these guys. We tell them exactly what's out there. We tell them the truth. We tell them what we think, and can you handle success? We'll see. It's up to you.
Do you look at point spreads or gambling lines?
But you know, that's people always bring them up to you. So obviously we don't gamble. We don't touch it. I never think about a point spread during the game. People have asked me that before, because you can't. It's just not the deal. But usually you're aware of what we're aware, and what we talk about is that who the experts think are going to win more than the point spread itself. And you always look to see who do the people out there, like one of our, Kenny Browning coming in this morning, heard Mark Packer and Mark Rick pick Wake Forest. So I told the team that today. I said, here's Mark Richt, who's a really good football coach. And he's done a lot of great things. And he saw you beat his old team last week, and he picked Wake Forest. I hope he's wrong.
Your boy McConaughey picked you all last week.
Yeah, but he's going to pick us every week. That's not a fair one. He would pick us against the Green Bay Packers. He wouldn't care. That would just be it. But the biggest thing we try to do is I try to explain today why the Mark Ricks of the world would pick Wake Forest, and let them understand that this is real stuff. People don't think that you can play with that much energy and toughness 3 weeks in a row. And Wake Forest is a team that has very minimal mistakes. They do a great job of coaching. So if you're not as ready to play as you were the last 2 weeks, and you make mistakes, that's how you get beat in this game. And we even went back and told them after a successful year that you win a championship, very few people repeat. Why do very few people repeat? They can't continue to do the things right that they did to win the championship, because you just take a little bit of a deep breath and you back off a little bit. And we've got to start the season over and make sure that Wake Forest is our first game.
Is this your first Friday night game, and what's your take on games being played on Fridays?
I would rather not play Friday night games because of high school football. And I was a guy who, we had one, I think, at Texas, and that was Iowa State. And if we were going to play one, I wanted it to be on the road. I didn't want it to be at our place. So we played at Iowa State on a Friday night, and it gave us an extra day to prepare for Oklahoma the next week. So that was a positive. In this situation, I'd rather never do it. I'm sure Dave would feel the same way. And then when I was calling games for ABC and ESPN, they wanted me in the studio on Saturday. So they only would let me call Friday night games, and I felt bad about it. But again, that was my job, and I had to do it. But I wish that college and pro would take Thursday night. College takes Saturday, pros take Sunday, and we leave high school football for Friday night. Anything else? Got it? Thanks, folks. We will see you there.